Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 124, QuickBooks FAQs, and a secret time-saving tip.
Ooh. Does this sound familiar?
Oh my God, I have so much to do today.
Don't forget to breathe.
But I have almost 400 emails in my inbox and 30 phone calls to make.
Have you looked into getting a virtual assistant yet?
Oh, and I need to schedule all my social media posts.
Did you drink anything today?
I had coffee.
Did you eat today?
Did I mention coffee's a bean?
This is Small Biz Life.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Small Biz Life. We have got a lot jam-packed into this episode. And so quickly, my name's Kristin Ingram.
And I'm Jeffrey W. Ingram.
We're a husband and wife team of small business owners that are helping you cut the crap out of your business. And I know one of those things that you really hate to do is the bookkeeping.
Yes.
So we actually asked people in the Small Biz Life community and people in one of the other Facebook groups that I'm in, kind of what their questions were regarding QuickBooks. So we are going to spend this time, trying to get you a little bit more familiar with the software if you don't know it, and kind of talk about some of the things that you can do with it that you might not know that you can.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do we start?
All right. So we have a generalized question here from Melissa Thomas. I've been using a notebook to keep my books for 5 years. 2018 is my year to move to an electronic system. I guess better late than never. Do I need QuickBooks, FreshBooks, or some other type of system?
Okay, so here's the thing. None of these systems are perfect, okay? I'll tell you that I've worked with the big four systems that are out there. I've done research on probably 12 different systems.
Why don't we just list off the big four?
Okay, so the big four are QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Xero, and Wave. Those are the big four that most people are using. There are some other ones too that integrate with other things. There are things like 17 Hats. There's Zoho. Like I said, there's tons of different options out there. The thing with QuickBooks that I really like is that it's an established piece of software. QuickBooks has been around for decades. I remember using QuickBooks 1999. Yeah, when I first started, they were kind of one of the.
It paired well with Lotus.
Yeah, back when we were using Lotus 123 instead of Excel. The reason I like it is because it's solid software. The app is solid. It integrates with lots of different software programs. And the reason for that is because about 90% of small businesses use QuickBooks.
Yeah. And
so when other companies develop software, when they develop their integration, the first integration they do is QuickBooks. FreshBooks, my issue with FreshBooks is that they still don't manage your cash balances.
And that's huge, I think.
Yeah.
Knowing your cash is,
that's huge. And FreshBooks is actually the same price as QuickBooks. I think it's actually a little bit more expensive. With Xero, you're going to pay about the same, but Xero is actually not a US-based company. And so some of the account names are kind of wonky. It also might include things you don't need, like payroll, and their payroll service doesn't work in all states. So you're kind of paying for features you don't need. And then Wave is cool. I think Wave is actually the second best. Wave is free. It's a little bit clunky. You're going to have ads inside, and it doesn't have all the integrations. Right. It's the price of free. So, that's the thing. QuickBooks, you can usually get a discount for the first 6 to 12 months. I'll put all my discount links in the show notes for this episode. And I can usually get you, depending on the month, anywhere between 30 and 50% off for 12 months. And usually QuickBooks only offers for the first 6 months.
Yeah. And this is me putting on my IT pro hat here. Whenever you're picking software, look at the things that you're using already, if anything, and do some research with those, because your shopping cart and however you're collecting money, you want to integrate as easy as possible to your accounting software to save you work. So start there, and maybe they do have a really good relationship with Zoho, and it'll work perfect for you, even though it's not one of the big four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's really critical, is to, make sure that, you look at all the other pieces of software that you use. I know for people that use PayPal, the PayPal integration was pretty terrible with QuickBooks. I'm super excited to announce that the company that does the plugin that we use for Stripe, they're called Sush.io, SUSH.io. We'll put it in the show notes. They just came out with a PayPal integration. It's gonna cost you about $9 a month, but for those of you that have a lot of PayPal traffic, it will literally suck all that information into QuickBooks for you, so it's all automated.
Correctly.
Right. That's the thing. I mean, we use it for Stripe. It is beautiful. The accounting for Ingram Digital Media, including doing the sales tax, I think takes me about 15 minutes a month. And
it really is key, because you could just take your top line numbers and bring them across, and it won't take you very long, but you lose a lot of the detail, and you lose the importance of individual customers within your business.
Right. And that's the thing. And it's like, when you're thinking about why should I do this versus using Excel or pen and paper or trying to keep it all in my head, the reporting features, I can generate a list in QuickBooks for both of our businesses with how much revenue we generated from each of our customers. Yeah. I can look to see what services are selling and which ones are not. I can look year to year and see what our numbers look like, last year versus this year. It's really hard to do that when you're using Excel or a piece of paper, and I can bring that up at any time. So I can look to see, well, how did this November look compared to last November or October?
I love Excel. I use Excel to generate many, many different things. Excel is not great with a lot of data. It's great at organizing and displaying data. That's the power of a spreadsheet. You don't want massive amounts of data within Excel, because the chance that you somehow screw up, even if it's correct when you start, something that happens in your formula gets screwed up over time. It's really hard to catch those kind of mistakes in Excel, and they're really easy to make. So be very leery of Excel in circumstances where you have a lot of data. Now, doing a pretty report with some of the data you get from your accounting system, Excel's awesome. It's not awesome for generating the results.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so what's the next question we have?
Okay, what version should I get?
Okay, and again, I think this goes back to what are you going to use it for? So, I mean, one thing, the self-employed version I'm not a huge fan of, because typically the self-employed version, it doesn't do cash management really well. It's kind of more for people who don't have a bank account. And if you've listened to the show, you know that I recommend you have a bank account. So I think anything above self-employed is a great option.
Yeah.
So for a lot of businesses, the simple start version will work just fine for you. And that's going to start at about $10 a month. Look to see what features you need. And it's nice because if you go to the QuickBooks website, it's actually going to show you, like, these are the features you get with each of the products.
Now, here's a great question from Lindsay, because this is one that always bugs me. QuickBooks Online versus the physical QuickBooks, the desktop version. As a consumer, I'm despising my lack of ability to buy things. And now you're buying everything as a service, and sometimes it's hard to get certain types of things without using a service. But it creates these monthly payments. But QuickBooks, I believe, still has desktop versions. So should I get QuickBooks Online or just the desktop version? It'll save me a little bit more money. I keep it for a couple of years without upgrading. In my mind, at least, it's cheaper.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. You've got to look at time, right? So QuickBooks Desktop does not have all the integrations that QuickBooks Online does. The bank feed feature, which is a must for all of my clients. And what I mean by bank feed is that you link QuickBooks to your bank and it brings in all the information from your bank. that is a critical time saver.
I think especially that must be especially true in an online space where you're dealing with customer transactions, paying online where they're not in your store doing a transaction. They're actually doing it via PayPal or Stripe or one of the other systems like that.
Right. So, I mean, the problem with the physical QuickBooks is that the bank feed feature is not as robust as you're going to get with QuickBooks Online. QuickBooks Online is going to allow you to invoice and email for free as part of the service. With the physical QuickBooks, again, that system, is not as robust. I love having the QuickBooks Online app on my phone. So, if I leave a client, I can bill that client from my car. I can't do that with QuickBooks Online. I'm sorry, I can't do that with QuickBooks Desktop. QuickBooks Desktop, it resides on one computer. Well, you guys that know me, I work at a university. I have my travel laptop. I have my powerhouse laptop. I've got my phone with me. I can access QuickBooks Online from all of those. I can even access QuickBooks Online from my husband's computer.
And there's nothing more romantic than we're on a date night and my wife is in QuickBooks Online looking at our revenue.
But it's funny though, because like we were out, and you would ask me like, I think our revenue, is more than this. Well, I pulled it up on my phone.
Yep.
Which was really cool.
I believe that was actually date night. So
yeah, it might have been date night. Yeah. You asked the question.
Oh, I'm just teasing.
So I mean, from a time saving perspective, and I will tell you there are security features built in. So if you try to log in from a device that you've never logged in before, it is going to ask you, hey, we're either going to send you an email or send you a text. So that you can confirm that you have access to this. So it's got another layer of authentication if you're logging into a computer you've never used before. Is that good, or is that just kind of like a...
It depends on how it's implemented. I mean, that's been an idea around for a long time. Typically today they use what they call two-factor authentication, which means it's something they own, something you own, and a third party are all involved in the process to make it really hard for one of the areas to be taken over to use to access your actual account. So someone can't get access to your email and steal from you. It takes multiple steps, and two-factor authentication. So that's actually probably more standard today. Like I know one of my Gmail accounts, one of my newer ones, I don't even have a password on. It's phone authenticated. And whenever I log in from my desktop, I have to go to my phone to actually say, so it's called out of bandwidth, and it protection, and it is more secure than having even a really good password.
Okay. And I think, and here's, I think one thing that people didn't ask about this, but I know security is a major factor. So QuickBooks uses the same encryption that your bank uses. You want to make sure you've got a very strong password. You want to make sure that you change it on a regular basis.
Use something like LastPass to store your passwords and just make them long.
Yeah, and we'll put a link to LastPass here as well, because if you're not using a password manager, 2018 is the time to start.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, what's next?
Okay. So now, what are some of the rookie mistakes? And someone did ask this question, and I forgot to put the name down. I apologize. But they want to know what were some of the rookie mistakes they should avoid.
Okay, so I would say not using the integrations because it's going to save you a ton of time. Making sure that your bank is hooked up, that you're using the bank feed because that's going to bring everything in. But I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm using the bank feed, it's going to be perfect. And I'll tell you, integrations are never perfect.
Nope.
And that's why,
banks do make mistakes. Think of Monopoly.
Well, but the thing is too, it's like, sometimes, I've had things that pulled in twice, or I've had things that didn't pull in at all. Sometimes there's a glitch in the system, so you want to make sure that you are, that you're also reconciling your bank account. And for most businesses, that's really like a 5 to 10 minute process.
Especially if you bring the feed in.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that the biggest rookie mistake that a lot of people make is that they say, oh, this is something I can just do once a year. And I'm just going to pull everything in like in March, and then it'll be done. Most banks put a 90-day limit on your bank feed. So if you don't go into QuickBooks on a regular basis, you may go in and realize that your information's not there.
Well, I think that, and sometimes their payments, a lot of your payments are simple because in business, a lot of times it's to similar vendors and stuff like that. But on those one-off things, those one-off purchases for your business, something you've made a year ago, you can say, well, I don't even know what that was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do I classify that,
Yeah, absolutely. And
As
I think
marketing.
And I think another rookie mistake, and I'm kind of jump around here a little bit. Somebody asked, should I get the merchant services? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. If you're going to do any invoicing, yes. I think a lot of people, they say, well, I don't want to pay the 2% fee, for merchant services. So I'm going to email my bills, but then there's no way for people to pay me easily. So then they got to send me a check and, oh no, wait, now I didn't get paid. So I have to send a reminder. When I went to QuickBooks Online, I signed up for the merchant services. My days receivable, which means the days an average bill was outstanding, went from 30 days to 4. Okay, that means that my clients went from on average paying me in 30 days to paying me in 4. You know why? Because I made it easy for them to pay me.
And if anyone has an argument for why it's better to not get paid when you perform services, please, I would have no idea why it's better to wait longer to get paid for services or products delivered.
Right. And the thing is, the way that I look at it is this is a cost of doing business, right? So if somebody mails me a check, I have to go to the mailbox, open up that check. I've got to go into QuickBooks and say the invoice was paid. Then I have to go to my banking app. I've got to, endorse the check, take pictures of the check, make sure it goes in okay, hold on to the check for a couple days to make sure it doesn't bounce, and then remember to shred the check. How much time does that take to do that process? Maybe 10 minutes? Okay, well, when you're billing $200 an hour, that's, let's see, approximately, $25, $30
Per check.
per check. So if you think about the fact that you pay a 2% fee on that check versus how much time you're losing to deposit those checks, okay, the math works. And you build it into your fee structure, right? So whatever you're charging for your product or service, you build in the fees.
Oh, don't you go to cost of goods sold on me, woman.
Okay. What's next?
All right. So now here's another great question about upgrading. I have, QuickBooks 2010.
Okay.
Is it worth me upgrading to a newer version? This works just fine for me.
I mean, here's the thing. So typically versions of QuickBooks are good with certain operating systems. If you're on something like 2010, it's probably not going to work well with Windows 10. And so, you might have some issues with that. It also may not work with the printers you have. It's not going to have the bank functionality. Certainly if you want to use their payroll, then it's not going to, that's not going to work. If you're going to the newest version of QuickBooks, if you're going to desktop, you might need help from their team to upgrade that many versions, but usually tech support will help you with something like that for free. If you're going to QuickBooks Online, it's actually really easy. You take a backup of your file, you upload it, their people handle it on their end, and you get an email when it's ready.
Awesome. Oh, that's really easy.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So if you're looking to, change from desktop to online, it's a really simple process because QuickBooks does it for you.
Yeah. Now, for those who are doing payroll, do you advise using the payroll services through these apps? Because obviously it's pre-integrated.
Right. Yeah. So, QuickBooks payroll, I'm going to say one of the things I don't like about QuickBooks is their payroll service is really expensive. Typically what you're getting with the basic payroll, which, you're going to find like when you sign up for QuickBooks, they're going to say, oh, well, do you want payroll with this? Typically with their payroll, they're only doing the calculations for you. You have to pay extra for direct deposit. You have to pay extra if you have extra employees. And they're not going to do your payroll taxes for you. So the system, the service that I recommend is called Gusto. We will put the links to Gusto into the show notes for this episode. But essentially, you're paying you're paying a small monthly fee. I think it's $39 a month plus $6 per employee, and they handle everything.
And Gusto, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that also deals really well with the 1099 people too, not just the W-2.
Right. So if you also have 1099s, you can pay contractors out of there. Again, it's $6 per person per month. But if you've got virtual assistants that you're using on a regular basis, included in that fee is they do all the 1099s for you. They do all the other reporting. It includes direct deposit. The person onboards themselves, which means you send an email to your employee or your contractor. They put in all their direct deposit information, all their withholding information, so you don't have to do any of that. We use this for payroll for Ingram Digital Media.
Full disclosure.
And I think I have one client that has payroll that's not using this service. In fact, I was talking to a client yesterday, and she was like, what did people do before Gusto? Trust me, we did a lot more work. It was awful. So if you're really looking for a low cost, easy solution, Gusto has just been fantastic.
Yeah.
I really like it.
And personally, to me, it's one of the ways I would judge a CPA is if a CPA is looking to gain work quarterly, they don't want you to use the payroll services. They want to charge you a lot of money to do a lot of the same stuff anyway. So I think it's also a good test for an accountant. So that's just a Jeff personal opinion.
And, I think one thing that's important, Jeff talks about that, is you've got to look at all the fees for a payroll service. So, there are lots of services out there. Something like QuickBooks, it's going to do the withholding part and it looks like it's inexpensive. But then once you have to pay like your accountant to do the quarterly taxes and the W-2s, now you're talking about like another $1,000 on top of that. There are other services out there that you pay a weekly fee. But they also charge you to do the stuff at year end as well. There's another fee on top of that. So just make sure that you understand all the fees that are included in the structure.
And those are good questions. If you belong to the free Facebook group, if you get stuck trying to figure out what's best for you. Now, got another one here, just because I've seen this come up, not in our Q&A here, but I've seen this come up several times in actual questions over the years. And, okay, I have a lot of inventory, or I bill by project. Is QuickBooks a good solution to deal with inventory and project billing? Okay, so project billing, the top line version of QuickBooks that you can get, I think it's called QuickBooks Plus. That one will handle project billing very well. You can do progress billing if you're in construction. QuickBooks inherently, any version of QuickBooks, I don't care if it's desktop or it's online, is not good with inventory management. Now, there are plugins that you can get, there are apps that you can get that will handle inventory for you. And, there are other systems, like for example, if you use WooCommerce, WooCommerce will manage your inventory for you. That integrates beautifully with QuickBooks. Yeah.
So, kind of like look at the systems that you're using and say, okay, do any of these have an inventory feature that I could be using instead of using QuickBooks?
Yeah.
Here's the thing with inventory. Inventory tracking takes a tremendous amount of work because you have to receive the inventory when it comes in.
It has to get scanned in and out of the system.
Exactly. It has to be scanned in and scanned out. You have to check on a regular basis. Is there loss? Is there shrinkage? If you throw something out, you have to make sure you pull that out of the system. And I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen in inventory management isn't that we can't find the software. It's that we can't find the business owner that is willing to do all the work. Inventory management is a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Okay, now we have one from one of our HQ founders, Leanne. And essentially, she's wondering, what do you recommend for the chart of accounts? Do you use your industry or do you hire an accountant to come in and set it up for you?
So typically, I will start with the chart of accounts for the industry, and then I will customize it. I think there are a lot of people who think that they either have to like look at their, Schedule C on their 1040, and those are the only accounts that they can use, or whatever's in QuickBooks, that's the only thing they can use, or they have to use all of those accounts. I'll tell you that for the accounting firm and for Ingram Digital Media, I think each of those companies only have maybe 15 expense accounts. I try to create things that are meaningful for my business. And that's really how I want you to kind of think of your chart of accounts. So if you don't know what a chart of accounts is, this is the list of all of the asset accounts, income accounts, expense accounts that you use in your business. So, insurance expense and payroll expense and office expense, those are all expenses that are on your chart of accounts.
So I think what you're saying here is your suggestion would be find an accountant or someone with an accounting background who will probably even say, hey, I'm just going to take your industry and I'm going to modify it for your business. Is probably the best way to get started.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even think you really need an accountant to do that for you. I have two rules. Accounts must be useful for you, right? So, don't break things into 15 different categories if that is not useful for you. And never create an expense account to put one thing in.
Yeah. That's one of those things too, like over time, you might need to break down income streams into multiple forms, but right away, you probably don't need to know a lot about where the income is coming from.
Well, and you can do that through items. You can do that, like I don't have, give you an example. So like for office expense, I don't have office expense Staples and office expense Office Max and office expense Amazon. I have office expense. Yeah. But now if I want to know how much I spent at each of those vendors, I can run a report.
Yeah, by the vendor.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Very good.
And you can do the same thing with sales. We have for the accounting firm, we have one sales account, but I can run a report based off the billing codes I use to know how much I billed into each of those codes.
Okay.
So don't feel like you have to create an account to do every single thing you want to do.
Awesome.
That's where it might be useful to get an accountant involved.
Yeah. Okay, now we have a question here from Carla. When you accidentally pay a vendor using your PayPal business account, it gets wonky in QuickBooks. How do you reconcile that so it doesn't post twice?
Okay, so Carla, I'd recommend that if you are using PayPal a lot, look at the Sush.io plugin. I think that will help you a lot for the PayPal integration. And typically the only time that I see things get pulled in twice is if the vendor bills you through PayPal and then you pay it through PayPal. I'm trying to get people away from billing through PayPal because the system's kind of wonky. But worst case, what I would do is I would just delete the vendor bill out of QuickBooks. That'll handle that for you.
Okay. Now I have a couple of questions from Lindsay here, and then we will get to the super secret tip that will make your life so much better. It's really so simple, but once you learn, you're like, I can't believe I've not used it all these years. But hold on. Let's get to Lindsay's questions first. Okay. And this is a great one because this is the point of having accounting for your business. And is what reports can I run in QuickBooks so I can understand how my business is doing?
Okay, so a couple different reports that I like to look at. Of course, the profit and loss is going to be your best. And when I look at profit and loss, there are a couple different ways I like to look at it. I like to look at it for the last month, right? So right now I'm kind of looking at, how we did for December. I'm also looking at, I like to compare how do we do this December to last December. And I like to look at year to date this year versus last year because I'm looking for growth.
Or at this point, strictly year to year.
Right, exactly. So that's something I like to do. I also like to look at, as I said before, there's a report that you can bring up that is sales by item. So I'll bring up my total sales. And again, that breaks it down by category for me that I'm billing it out at. So like for the accounting firm, I've got one for taxes. I've got one for consulting. I've got one for QuickBooks stuff. And then I like to look at that year to date and year to year to kind of see what areas of the business are growing.
I'm going to give one quick bit of advice to anyone out there who has a business that has a big peak that's really important, like retail. And that is when you look and do month-to-month comparisons year to year, you have to understand if like, Christmas falls on a different like day in the month. And so if you don't have a similar year to look at, last year might not be a great comparison month to month if you run a peak style business where you get really heavy in one part of the year, unless the peak happens to be on the exact same day every year, which is I don't know of any like that.
Well, and here's the thing, one thing that I look like I'll use tax season as an example. When I look at my revenue for tax season, I always look from January 1st to April 15th because what I noticed last year we were kind of ahead of the game. And so, I'm looking at my revenue and I'm like, holy crap, my revenue is up like 62%. And it wasn't because tax season had increased 62%. It was because we were so far ahead with the work that we had billed out more.
Well, that and using the merchant services to collect from, I believe, all of your clients last year, so.
But that's the thing. So, one of the things I've tried to be much better about is making sure that a bill goes out with a tax return. And so I'm billing faster. We were getting work done faster. We were collecting money faster. So when I looked at those reports, I was like, holy crap, we're up like 62%. But by the end of tax season, we were probably up maybe like 15 or 20.
And that inherently is the danger. So make sure it's what we like to call in the comparison business an apples to apples comparison.
Yep. And that's the nice thing with the reports, though, is that you can change the dates, to make sure that you're really
any time period you want to look at. Yep. Okay, and now one more from Lindsay here. Let's see.
So Lindsay asked about the search features in QuickBooks. Yes. So, and this is kind of a super secret tip. I don't think a lot of people know about this. If you're using QuickBooks Online, in the top, basically like in the top of QuickBooks Online, there is this little search bar. And it's kind of, if you don't know it's there.
It's like a blog search bar, kind of.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those things that if you don't really know it's there, you wouldn't know to use it. If you click on that, if you just click into it, it's going to show you like a list of the last like 50 transactions that you put into QuickBooks.
Holy crap.
So like if you screwed something up, like if you went, oh, that should have been 42 cents and I put 24 cents. Crap.
Especially too, because you're doing that and everyone's put numbers in and sometimes you even realize it before you close out, but you've done 20 things. You, I screwed up so-and-so's thing, I think. Let me go check.
Yeah.
And then it's like, let me drill here, click here, up here, down there.
Right.
So literally you'll see like the last how many transactions?
It's like 50.
Oh, that's really cool.
You can scroll down. So it shows like 10 to 12 on the screen, but if you scroll, it'll go further. But you can type in the name of a customer, the name of a vendor, then like if you know the amount of a transaction you're looking for, and it is a great search feature. Which that's another thing I think that is awesome, with QuickBooks versus like using pen and paper or Excel. It's just so much easier to find things. So, I love that.
Okay. Now I need a drum roll. Drum. Okay, that's a really lame one.
Yeah, that was pretty lame actually, yeah.
What is the one, and I want to you give me a tip now that will save me time. Probably more time, and maybe this is even a rookie mistake people make, And
it's going to save you money.
It's going to save you money and time.
Yeah. Okay, so your QuickBooks might already have this, okay? If it doesn't, then you need to add it. You should have an expense account that's called Ask My Accountant. This is where I have my clients put all of the stuff where they don't know where to put it. What that does, it saves you time because, you're not going, oh my God, I don't know where to put this. Where am I going to put this? I don't know. Let me analyze this. Let me think about it.
And then you put it somewhere, and then later on when you go to do your taxes, either your accountant has to find it and fix it, or you maybe lose out on potential deduction money.
Right, exactly. And it's going to, I think it saves you money because like I know my clients are trained to put everything that they don't know where to put it into that account. And so I go look through that account. I can clean it up really quickly. The one thing you have to do is you have to put what you purchased in the memo.
Yeah.
Because the problem is like if you just put in the vendor name and the amount, as your accountant, I don't know what to do with it either because you didn't give me enough information. So if you just kind of put what you bought, what you paid for, whatever it was, then, we can easily move that to where it should be, and I'll let you know where to put it next time.
Awesome.
So that is my super secret tip for today. And so I hope that this was really helpful. If you have more questions about QuickBooks, or if if you're not using it right now and this is something that you want to start using, this month in HQ, we are doing a QuickBooks setup from scratch.
What?
So I am starting a new company. I will show you how to set it up. I will show you how to do these integrations. We're going to do some of the more kind of advanced stuff in there as well as kind of a bonus. So if you're not an HQ member, this is the time to join. We've got a ton of awesome bonuses for you, including the monthly Deadline Dominator checklist.
Yes.
You're going to get the Focus Master Plan for free. You're going to get our time management class for free. And you get to learn how to really utilize QuickBooks to the best you can. And all of that for $39 a month. So
easy way to have no excuses this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing, I'll tell you, like most people, when they hire me to set up QuickBooks for them, it's going to cost them a couple $100, and I will walk you through the setup, just for paying the monthly fee for HQ, plus you get all those awesome bonuses.
Yeah.
And if you pay annually, you'll get 2 months for free.
What?
So we've got lots of awesome content scheduled for you for HQ this year.
That's awesome.
So go check it out. And thank you so much. Have an awesome day.
This was Small Biz Life.